hardest, and this here may be tough to you. Snack cake to me, yeah, more hostess. This been overdue forever. Asked me when it was dropping, said never. Should've made you cut the feta, but I designed it Freemason Margiela.
What's good, Shellitronnn here, the most spoke, no joke, and I'm back at again with a brand new video. And I have some very, very interesting content for you guys today. With our season now over, and with our win against the Saints and the Falcons win against the Bucks in Week 17, we secured the 3rd ranked spot in the NFC South. So we now know all the teams that the Carolina Panthers are going to be playing in the 2019-2020 NFL season. So it should be really exciting. We know all teams are playing at home. We know the teams are playing away. And we're going to get right into that right now. But before we get too deep into that, I do want to give a quick little shout out to one of the subscribers who commented on my last video when I was wondering what the methodology was for determining draft picks when 2 teams tied. Now, I assumed it was kind of like the whole playoff methodology, where if 2 teams are tied, then you go to the tiebreaker, who won head-to-head against those 2 teams, and then you go from there. But apparently with draft stock and draft positioning, it's based on strength of schedule, which is an aggregation of how many wins each team you played in that season got. And it turns out the Falcons' opponents had 4 more wins than our opponents did, so that's where that came from. So shout out to Tune on Strings, man. I did not know that. You learn something new every day. But getting back on track here, you see this image right here showing our home and away games. At home, we play the Rams, we play the Seahawks, the Jaguars, the Titans, the Redskins, the Falcons, Saints, and Bucks, obviously. Away, we have the Cardinals, the Niners, the Texans, the Colts, the Packers, and then the NFC South teams again. And what you might notice here is this is I call it a pretty even schedule, honestly. This is actually, it looks kind of top heavy at some parts and bottom heavy in other parts. I mean, this is a good mixture of teams that did well this year and teams that kind of did just under average. Now, we do end up facing 5 of the 12 playoff teams from this year. That's the Rams, Seattle. We're playing the Saints, obviously. We have Houston, and there's also the Colts. And you'll notice the schedule has us playing the NFC West and the AFC South. Both divisions sent 2 teams to the playoffs this year. So that's kind of interesting. But I also want to do a little bit of number crunching here to see just what our splits were going to be, home versus away. Because obviously this season, we went 5-3 at home and 2-6 on the road. And our last road victory was against the Saints, Week 17 in a game they borderline wanted to lose, honestly. But I found out that the teams who play at home next year had a 69-59 record this year. And the teams who play away next year had a combined record of 59-68-1. And that's pretty even. I thought there'd be a lot more than a 10-game spread between a home and away. And I thought to myself, well, maybe it's just that our division is skewing the data. Maybe it's because, you know, the Saints did so well. Maybe we can find out that if we took away our division, it'd be a little bit different. But taking us out of the equation, the NFC South went 25-23, so there was really no skewing of the numbers at all. It wasn't like our division was particularly strong or particularly weak. So to me, that was very interesting. One other thing that I noticed was that 3 of our opponents next year have top 10 picks. That's the Cardinals, the Niners, and the Bucks. And my first thought was, okay, we have weak teams we're going to be playing. But then I thought about it again. The Cardinals had, look, Steve Wilkes just got fired. We didn't understand what happened to the Cards, 3-13. But old quarterback, old number 1 receiver, and a running back who they just paid who fell off the face of the earth. That's kind of a tough sell. They have to do something there. The Niners, now they only won, I think, 4 games this season. But if you remember, Jimmy G got hurt and his season got ended. They need a few things in San Fran to get right. But they were front runners preseason, have a really good season this year. Make it to the playoffs. Some people have them as the Super Bowl favorites. That was kind of a long shot in my opinion. But I think the San Francisco 49ers can have a good season this upcoming season if Jimmy G gets healthy and they can draft or find a wide receiver in free agency. Maybe Antonio Brown? Who knows? They have a really good draft pick to entice the Steelers, so maybe. Then the Bucks, who are still going to go with Jameis Winston reportedly as their QB1 this year, depending on what they do in the draft and in free agency and whatnot. Players getting older, more mature. They also fired their head coach, Dirk Cutter, so we're going to have to see just who they bring in. Will his system work for this team? Can he get something out of Jameis Winston? We know how things look with Jared Goff. We all wrote him off as a bust. Then he gets to LA with a better coach, and things look a lot better for him. So maybe Jameis will get a little bit more efficient, cut down on those interceptions and those bad decisions. They can find a better run game. They can probably do a little bit more in Tampa. That's only mentioning the bottom feeder teams from this year that we play next year. Well, there are some teams that did just decently this year, like just under average, that might be looking at a huge turnaround for next season. The Redskins. They beat us this season, But this season was really derailed because they lost, 8 quarterbacks in the span of 2 weeks. I've never seen it before. They lost quarterbacks like this. Actually, I have seen that somewhere before. Where have I seen a team run through 8.5 quarterbacks in 6 quarters? Get back to me on that. So they could be in for a really good season. I mean, I'm going to be real with you. I'm not a really big fan of the Redskins front office for a number of reasons. Honestly, a lot of reasons. I'm not a big fan of the coaching staff. Alex Smith is all right to me. But they could be in for a pretty good turnaround considering where they were atop the NFC East and then what happened to them and their precipitous fall from grace. And I mean, that was a big, big fall. Green Bay, we know who Aaron Rodgers is. They fired their coach mid-season. They got no defense. Look, if you're the Green Bay front office, keep drafting on defense. Anything else? Find some defense. The Packers are going to be in the mix. They're usually in the mix. I don't have a lot of faith in the Vikings, honestly. They kind of fell off a little bit. But that NFC North division is looking a little tougher. It may not be the same kind of cakewalk for Aaron Rodgers as it's been in the past. Maybe the Vikings will do well again next year. The Bears might be for real. I want to see it again. Mitch Trubisky looks like he could be kind of real. We'll find out. But honestly, for the most part, we're playing some pretty decent teams. There's not a lot of drop-off in talent other than Arizona. If San Fran can get Jimmy G back 100% healthy and find some wide receivers, they could be good, especially at home. So I'm thinking Rams, Seattle, the Jags kind of fell off. They need another quarterback. They might go QB in the first round, which they really should. I think they have a second pick in the draft. Find a QB. I don't know who you want to get, but find someone, Jacksonville. Rams, Seattle, Washington, Atlanta had a lot of injuries on defense. They were set up for a really good season this year as well. So there's some teams that just played just under average who could have a really great turnaround. Let's keep it going. Obviously, New Orleans is going to be good again next year. Houston, real deal. Colts, real deal. Both got hot in the second half of the season of this year. Expect them to continue that on next year, barring any kind of injuries. The AFC South might be back again. If the Jags can get on track, that's going to be a scary, scary division. Like I said, Green Bay, if they can turn it around, I'm not 100% sure. They have to get some things worked out for them. So we could be in for a very, very interesting season next year. I'm excited for this. We're going to have a good, borderline great offense again next year. But the big question is, how's Cam Shorter going to be next year? And also, how's our defense going to play? Was it scheme or was it team last year? Meaning, was Eric Washington just not a good fit for D coordinator? Will Coach Rivera still be calling the plays next year? Or will we find a defensive coordinator? I mean, look, the Steelers are in a little bit of some turmoil in the locker room. They might fire Mike Tomlin and then, we can pick you up, Mike Tomlin, as defensive coordinator. I mean, look, if it pays the bills, it pays the bills, Mike Tomlin. Come on down to Carolina. We got a spot for you. Spend a year or two as DC. I mean, look, we have a pretty decent track record of giving our defensive coordinators head coaching jobs. You never know, my guy. This is going to be a really, really interesting schedule. There's not a lot of cupcake in this schedule. Arizona, maybe. Tampa Bay, depends on how they draft, how aggressive they get in free agency. Other than that, the Jags are going to be decent next year. I don't see them being horrible. They might be decent next year. Titans are going to be just decent again. Redskins could be decent again. I don't see a lot of cupcake to the schedule. I really don't. Barring injury, and if Jimmy G's back 100% and they get a wide receiver for him, especially if it's AB, I would not sleep on the Niners. But what are your thoughts on this quick little rundown of the teams we play next year? Do we look good at home? Do we look like we're going to be set up better against teams at home or away? Do the teams we play at home or away look stronger? I really couldn't call it, to be honest with you right now, off top. Really couldn't call it. What is your record prediction for next year? Keep in mind, it's an odd number year. You can't divide 2019 by 2, so I'm optimistic. Hey, quick bonus here. Which team that we play next year do you see having the biggest upswing, the biggest improvement from last year to this upcoming year? Which team do you see having the biggest downfall from last year to this upcoming year? And which team is your sleeper pick? Let me know in the comments, but the one thing is, none of the answers can be repeats. I would not be surprised if Jacksonville has a huge, huge improvement of a season. If they find their quarterback in the draft, or maybe if there's someone available in free agency, maybe even Nick Foles, if he's available, the Jags can be a real team. I would not be surprised if the Redskins just fall off the face of the earth. I would not be surprised if they go 4-12 next year. But my sleeper for next year, probably the Colts. Andrew Luck is getting to be around that level that people were saying he was going to be, that transcendent talent. And I'm definitely going to be watching a few Colts games next year because we all know about the whole Andrew Luck, Cam Newton thing. Let me know in the comments below. And you already know to do with that like button.
Cheers to you, appreciate the chance. Being told y'all I been the man. Being told y'all I had the gift. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Real ones gonna recommend. Count this as another win.